Ladies and gentlemen, transmitting direct from Lion's Den Studios in Los Angeles, California, Crewest Studios and Danube Productions bring you The Conduit, bringing together motivated artists to share their experience and to pull back the curtain for a first-hand look at a life in the arts. On this episode, our guest is DJ, music producer, and Stone's Throw Records founder, Peanut Butter Wolf. So adjust your antenna, relax, and tune in. Your program is about to begin. All right, welcome to episode 6 of The Conduit, a podcast where I sit down and talk to amazing, courageous people about making a living in the arts. Today, my guest is DJ, music producer, and Stone's Throw Records founder, Chris Manak, aka Peanut Butter Wolf. Through his label, Wolf has helped develop the careers of artists like Madlib, Oh No, J Dilla, MF Doom, Aloe Black, Dame Funk, Mayor Hawthorne, and Anderson Paak, just to name a few. But long before Stone's Throw, Wolf and his good friend, the rapper Charisma, got signed to Hollywood Basic Records and opened shows for Digital Underground, House of Pain, and The Far Side before Charisma's untimely death in 1993. Deflated for a while, Wolf found therapy in beat making, started working with the legendary Ultramagnetic MC's main man Kool Keith, producing the song I Want to Be a Star, and rubbing elbows with the who's who of the San Francisco hip-hop scene, including Dan the Automator, future Beastie Boy DJ Mixmaster Mike, DJ Qbert, fellow San Jose transplant DJ Shadow, and Cutmaster Kurt. Having helmed Stone's Throw Records for coming on almost 3 decades now, I caught Wolf out on his porch, hanging with the hummingbirds, and talked about how he has built one of the most successful indie hip-hop labels ever, helps artists reach their goals, and stays excited about music, while also finding time to travel the world as a working DJ, helping create an in-house recording studio, as well as his all-vinyl Gold Line bar, with a continuous lineup of the most fanatical vinyl enthusiasts and DJs around. So sit back, relax, and listen to my conversation with the one and only Peanut Butter Wolf. All right, Peanut Butter Wolf, Chris Manak, welcome to The Conduit, man. Thanks for being here.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks, man.
Good. Well, so I just always like to start, just because it's so interesting with musicians and artists, kind of how they got to where they are, and family life, home life growing up. And I know you grew up in San Jose.
Yeah.
I wanted to just talk about family life. Did it play a part in your musical taste, or did that come at school? All that kind of stuff. What'd your mom and dad do?
Yeah. No, I love talking about San Jose, my childhood. So
Nice.
I could talk about that for a whole hour.
Right on.
I don't know if anyone wants to hear that much, but yeah. I mean, I kind of started. My parents, had a record player in the house when I was maybe 3 or 4. I think some of the early shows that I watched as a kid were like the Sonny and Cher show, I remember, and the Donnie and Marie show, and Hee Haw, and I didn't care for Lawrence Welk so much, but the Monkees were I really enjoyed the Monkees.
Yeah.
And I think some of those early shows, I learned about Soul Train maybe when I was like 7 or 8, maybe a little later.
Yeah.
My dad was in the Army, so we kind of bounced around a lot, and I settled in San Jose. Yeah, so first 5 or 6 years of my life, I was probably in like 7 or 8 different cities and states. I was born in Maryland, Aberdeen, Maryland, where Bismarcky lives.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. So, I ended up settling in San Jose, and when disco got really big as a child, I was really drawn to it, and I remember Saturday Night Fever. I got the soundtrack. My mom got me it, and I just remember my friends. I lived on a block where it was like all girls. I was really like the only guy. All my friends were girls growing up, and they all liked to dance. So Saturday Night Fever was and even Grease and the redo of Sgt. Pepper, and I was noticing like
Peter Frampton.
Yeah, exactly. But I noticed like RSO Records, those were all on that same label, and I think that might have got me kind of interested in like how a label could have a certain sound and stuff,
Sure, sure.
And then
Yeah,
KTEL
man.
was big in those years too. I was learning about compilation albums, and yeah, like there was disco comps, and I would buy those and learn. But I also, my teacher in second grade, he was really into funk and soul, and he taught me a
Oh,
lot about
wow.
music.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
yeah, so he, and I remember even in the song Popcorn was kind of an electronic song,
Uh-huh.
where in those days they would put on a movie, and there it would be like a silent movie, and then they would play a record behind it. So like they played that song Popcorn, and I was really, that became my favorite song, and I learned about kind of electronic music through that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. They did these. You went in silent movies with music. Where were they doing this? Where'd you see that?
No, in my school, yeah,
Oh, at your
at the school
school.
they just had
Dang.
like it was probably like an 8 millimeter or something. They didn't really have the budget for something that had sound and visual together, so they
Gotcha.
would play like this trippy visual thing, and just play that record with it.
Oh, wow. That's
But yeah,
wild.
so yeah, so the early years for me were really, and my parents were in the record of the month club also, so
Okay.
that was a thing where you would see the ads. You could see it in old magazines. There'll be ads still like that say 13 records for 1 penny. So
Right.
you can pick them all, and then by doing that, then you agree to be in this record of the month club for like 2 years or however long it is, and they send you get to choose what record you want, but they send you a new record,
Sure.
or maybe
Right.
two or three.
Yeah.
And so my parents would let me choose the records with them, and
Oh, cool.
I'd be really excited opening the package. And
Yeah, man.
but yeah, my parents were more into like show tunes and like rock and country, a little bit, like kind of soft rock, I guess.
Uh-huh.
um,
America. Like
like
some
John Denver and
John
like,
Denver. This is
yeah, that
crazy. I found out I was
Olivia
teaching a
Newton-John.
lesson, a John Denver song, and I was telling my mom that, and she goes, your John Denver went to high school with your uncle." I was like,
Oh
"What?"
wow,
He was in school in Texas for a minute, and my uncle was like friends with John Denver when they were in
that's
high
weird.
school in Texas or something. Isn't that crazy?
Wow,
I was like, I had no idea. Anyway, yeah, John Denver side story.
John Denver. Yeah, I mean, my mom used to tell me that Buffy St. Marie went to college with her. She was friends with her. She was
Oh,
like kind of a folk singer,
right.
Native
Yeah.
American.
Native American folk singer, yeah. She's
Um,
still doing it. My buddy plays guitar with her.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, I
she's
gotta
still
tell my
doing it and
mom.
touring. Yeah, she's still doing it and still sounds good too.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. So you had all
So
kinds of cool music going on at home and at school. There was all kinds of cool stuff happening.
that, yeah, the record of the month thing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like. Yeah, I guess I did as a kid. I liked the music my parents liked, but as a
Yeah.
teenager, then really got into. Well, like I said, second grade, I learned about funk and soul music, and I guess
That's what.
through just, yeah, through Saturday Night Fever, kind
Yeah.
of being big. I learned about Cool and the Gang through that
Exactly.
soundtrack, and
Yeah.
the KGs, and like, a lot of other good stuff.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's cool. Do you remember any of the records you got in Record of the Month Club? Do you remember your top faves or anything?
Sometimes there were like 8 tracks, and sometimes there were vinyl. Just kind of ones I was mentioning, like Gordon
Yeah.
Lightfoot.
Yeah.
There was the Olivia Newton-John album. My dad would get like classical records. He would get like Beethoven's Fifth and yeah, stuff like that, Mozart. And my dad was really into Sinatra.
Wasn't on Saturday Night Fever, wasn't there, didn't they have that disco version of Beethoven's Fifth on there too? So
They did.
you had
Yeah.
both versions, the real
Yeah,
version
exactly.
and the disco version.
Exactly.
Oh,
Totally.
that's cool. That's crazy, man. Well,
Yeah.
so as you were kind of getting more and more into it, who became kind of your musical North Stars, as it were? What got you interested in
Yeah.
pursuing music on your own,
It's really a year by year, but yeah, like
Yeah.
when I was in second grade, it was like Heat Wave, the Groove Line. I really liked that one.
Oh, yeah.
Boogie Nights, and
Right.
um, the Jacksons.
Yeah.
But I would say fifth grade is where I really got into it, where I was buying records every week, every weekend. So during the week, I would save my lunch money, and this is a story a lot of people my age tell, but I would save my lunch money, and on the weekend I would go and buy as many 45s as I could afford. So
Yeah,
45s were like $1 each back then.
right.
And so you get $1 for lunch money every day. You starve yourself and then stay thin or whatever.
Yep.
Very unhealthy way to, yeah.
But you got a stack of records, so it's all
But
good.
yeah. So on the weekend, totally, and sometimes I would get a 12-inch. Like I remember one of my first 12 inches was probably "I'm Ready" by Kano, which is like a kind of Italo disco.
Okay.
But I like Kraftwerk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Did that carry on? I know, like every time I'd go on tour, I'd always take the per diem, just like stock up on food at the venue. The free stuff they put out.
Oh, and then buy
And then take
records or
my per
something.
diem and go buy records. We'd always.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It
I
never
mean,
stops.
yeah, my life hasn't changed at all in that way. Like, I was like at a record store yesterday, and I dropped a lot of money,
Yeah.
and a lot of time.
Right.
But yeah, you'd think we would have everything we need by now, but the
There's
want is
always
always,
something.
yeah, there's always that thing that you didn't know
And
about.
that just keeps us going, man. There's always that one tune where you're like, dang, how did I not hear about this one already? Like it's just endless.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so much stuff on Spotify and everything now, but
Right.
and it's a lot easier to like cross-reference stuff,
Totally.
but yeah, I found myself this morning like just peeling price tags off of the records I bought yesterday, that it's never changed.
That's a crazy thing. Like I remember just growing up, like obviously now with social media and Spotify and all these streaming things, you can pretty much, if you hear somebody talking about something, you can go on and Google it and find out about it instantly. But like when I was a kid, and I'm sure it was the same with you, like the only way you found out about cool music was like from the older dude up the block or whatever who
Yeah.
knew about this, and you'd have to like borrow his VHS tape with like live footage or whatever. It's changed
Yeah.
so much. Now it's just like all at our fingertips.
But yeah, that's true about like needing to know someone that's a few years older. Because a lot of people I know who are younger, who have older taste in music, they learned about it through their older brother or sister or their uncle.
Yeah.
My friend yesterday, the guy I was record shopping with. He basically is in charge of the library at my record bar, which we
Oh,
can
okay.
talk about later. But
Yeah,
But
definitely.
he's like in his late 20s, and he was saying Second Edition by PIL was his favorite song, or his favorite album in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was in high school in the, in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite when I was in high school in 1986.
Oh,
But
dang.
it came out in 79, so it's just like, I guess that album just, yeah. But I was like, how did you learn about it? He's like, oh, my uncle. And my
Yeah.
uncle actually, he also was really into a lot of, he was funk and soul. He saw James Brown in the 60s several times, and
Ooh, yeah.
he took me to Gil Scott-Heron in the 90s.
Wow.
But yeah, he would make me tapes, and like it would be like all Aretha Franklin songs on one side and all Otis Redding on the other. And yeah, I just fell in love with some of
Dang.
those artists.
Oh man, what a blessing to have that person in your life. I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
all. Still, I mean, obviously, we both surround ourselves with people who just love music like we do. So you're constantly
Yeah.
just finding new stuff, man, constantly.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever see that PIL movie that they did a little while back? Dave from the
I
Lions, the bass
did.
player, did some of the music for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
helped his
Yeah.
buddy his buddy put the documentary together, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, we
Yeah.
had an early screening for it at my house actually, because
No way.
yeah, one of the ladies who was, I think, maybe one of the directors or producers or something.
Oh.
She lives up the street, and
Oh, crazy.
yeah. But yeah, I
Wow.
mean, yeah, PIL was it for me. I mean, but that was like kind of later, because yeah, like my background was disco and funk, and then I got into electronic music, and then
Yeah.
the reggae and the new wave and post punk and all that kind of came in my teenage years, I guess,
Yeah.
and punk as well.
Yeah. So much. I was just talking to Booty Brown about that, but there was so much music, new music coming out when we were in junior high and high school, from new wave to punk rock to
Yeah,
dance hall to like all, just all kinds of different stuff, hip hop, obviously.
yeah,
But man, just an influx of like, holy crap, what's this? You know?
It was so hard to find it, like reggae music. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there was this Prince Jammy record that I found. It was an electronic computer. I forget the name of it, but it was like
Oh,
from '85, and I remember buying that when it came out. But it was, I had such a thirst for like different types of reggae, and I could never find it in San Jose. But
oh yeah.
there was one DJ that would play it on college radio. So
Okay.
having college radio was just such a service, I guess, back then.
Who was the cat who you were listening to on college radio up there? Do you remember?
For the reggae, I don't remember it, but I would record it, and I would like write down songs. There was this one song called "Everybody Get Flat" that I was always looking for, and I couldn't
Oh,
find it for until years and years later. But
yeah.
there was the hip hop show was this guy Kevy Kev.
Okay.
It was every Sunday, and he was from New York, and he
Oh,
started. He was a student at Stanford University, and he was a rapper in this rap group called the Members Only Crew, and they all wore members only jackets, but they were
classic.
all Stanford students and
Okay.
doing kind of New York based hip hop in the Bay Area. And
Wow.
his show was like, went on for 20 years, I think, from
Oh
85 to
shit.
like, I think he's still on, like off and on somehow nowadays.
Wow. Oh man.
But yeah, that guy was like a hero of mine as well. And
Right.
I remember the first time I was on his show, like with charisma, like that was kind of like a goal achieved, I guess, for us.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about charisma because I know that's a huge part of your story. And
Yeah.
I just want was he kind of like what were you doing before you guys met pretty early on? Yeah, you were friends before you started doing music together.
No, I met him through music.
Through
So
music, okay.
I actually, well, to go back a little further, like
Yeah.
I started working with rappers in 1985 when I was 15, and I
Hmm.
had a drum machine, and I got two turntables and a mixer,
Yeah.
and they weren't 1200s, they were like cheapies. Like I had a Fisher and a Panasonic, and they didn't have pitch control, but I was able to scratch. I had a mixer, a Radio Shack mixer,
Right.
and I was tapping out beats, and I was working with these two MCs separately, and then one of them joined the army, and then I went away to college. I went to Long Beach State for 1 year.
Oh,
So I
nice.
came down here, and um, yeah, I stopped working with that MC. He actually was dealing with depression, which I didn't even realize because he was like the class clown all the time, like always just one of the funniest guys you'd ever meet. And I found out years later that he committed suicide. So I was
Oh.
really surprised by that. He was like in his 20s.
Oh man.
But that was my first MC. His name was Miles, and he actually let me borrow a drum machine. He was the one that was always like, "We're gonna make it, we're gonna make it," and I kind of had that, like, part of me thought it would happen, but then part of me was like, well, in San Jose, you just hear all these things, like people like telling you it's not gonna happen, and
Hmm.
I think, yeah, I just was kind of unsure of myself in those years, and
Sure.
but with him, he really had that confidence that I was desiring, I guess, to be a part of.
Yeah.
And then went to Long Beach for a year, and then my dad said, if you move back to San Jose, I'll get you a car, because I didn't have a car in Long Beach.
Okay.
But just being out here, being in Southern California, they had K Day, and it was like 24-hour hip hop. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing like that, and it was like when EPMD and Eric B and Rakim and Public Enemy, all that stuff was just like changing my world.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I moved back to San Jose, and then I started DJing on the radio on KSJS.
Okay.
They had a show from midnight to 6 a.m. on the weekends, and it was all
Yeah.
hip hop.
Oh yeah.
And so the program director for the hip hop show, she said, "Oh, let's make a record." And so it was like $1,500 to do 500 copies of a vinyl, and we had this group, Lyrical Prophecy, that I was producing at the time.
Hmm.
It was two MCs, and we basically, yeah, this and two producers, myself and this guy DJ Ralim. So we put out a vinyl of that. We did 500 copies, but we didn't know anything about the industry, so we didn't master it. We didn't know that. We didn't even know what mastering was.
Yeah.
Didn't know about distribution, so we got 500 copies of this record, and like, what do we do with it? You know, it sounds like shit. I mean, sonically, it sounded horrible.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we were in this, you know, going to studios to record it and everything, but
Right.
that sound is like that lo-fi sound that I always like kind of look for. Now, you know, when I'm buying records, like the rarest, like weird sounding, you know, just sounds like unique and kind of has a charm to it. But by us having a record, then all the MCs in San Jose were like, oh, if we work with these guys, we'll get a record too. So that's how I met Charisma. Long story short.
Oh man, that's crazy. They
So
saw you were
Charisma-
doing stuff, so they were like, we got to check out this guy.
Yeah, they
He's putting
saw
out
the record.
records.
Yeah, they saw our record, and they also saw that we were on the radio. And
Wow.
a guy from my high school, Kermit, he brought Charisma over my house, and Charisma was 16 and I was 20, so I was 4 years older than him.
Right.
But we were a group for 4 years, and
Oh man.
yeah, that was like a whirlwind.
Yeah. Talk to me about kind of like, I'm just like, I'm trying to give people a leg up who are trying to get into the things that all my guests are doing. So like, when you guys met and realized you had a chemistry, how did you go about practicing your shows? What were some of your first shows? How did you kind of learn how to work with a crowd? Like that kind of stuff is just super interesting to people, I think.
Yeah. So at the time when I met Charisma, my idea was to have Molly Mall in Control Volume 1 had come out a couple years earlier, and 45 King, you know, both of those guys were producers that I looked up to, and they both had compilation albums with different MCs on them.
Right.
Jazzy J had one as well. But my idea was, I'm going to do a producer album. I'm going to feature all different MCs.
Yeah.
So Charisma was one of the ones that I found, and there was this conscious hip hop group called the Nubians, the Truth Unit, and I did some songs with them, and you know, there were a lot of different people, but Charisma was like, oh, that's cool, because it got to the point where it was hard for me to schedule time with everybody. It was like so Charisma, he'd want to come over and I'd be like, oh, you can't because I have Peacemaker over today, or I have, you know, this person or that person. And so he was getting frustrated, and he's like, man, this is cool, but I'm better than all those other MCs, and like, you're eventually just gonna drop them all, and it's just gonna be me and you, watch. And he was kind of joking, but kind of serious, and kind of like playing with my head a little.
Yeah.
But it is what ended up happening, you know. I ended up like just really focusing on him and his talents, and
That's awesome.
we found a manager, and he basically shopped our demo around, and we ended up getting signed to Hollywood Basics, which was Walt Disney's hip hop imprint.
How did you find a manager, Chris? Like, how did you guys go about that? Like, that's such a conundrum to a lot of people.
I know. He found us. I think maybe like us playing our stuff on, because I had connections at different college radio stations.
Yeah.
Being in the scene, and you know, I got our stuff played, and I'm pretty sure that's how this manager found out about us, or maybe it was a live show. I honestly don't remember, but yeah, we were doing a lot of local shows, and our manager, he had connections in the industry, and he actually also managed Mahershala Ali, the actor. He's like a Oscar-winning actor. Trying to think of what films he's in. He's in a lot of films.
That
but
name sounds familiar. I'd have to see a picture again.
But yeah, no, but yeah. So our manager, he got it to all the labels, or you know, he claimed to have, but the guys at Hollywood Basics heard it from the manager, but I guess they were playing it to Digital Underground when they were on tour with them, and they're like, "What do you think of this?" And the guys at Digital Underground really liked it, and
Wow, that's
so
cool.
Money B and I Humpty, all of them, rest in peace.
Yeah.
And so that's how we got signed, was because the band, because Digital Underground liked it,
Wow, that's a crazy cool backstory.
and that's what I try to tell people though, is that like it's important to get your stuff heard by industry people, but it's equally, if not more important, to find fans who've already made it as a
Right.
musician doing the stuff that you're doing. It's a lot easier to like maybe open a show for them, or
Yeah.
if they see your talent, maybe they'll do a track with you, or
Yep. Get that
and
cosign,
those
and
cosigns, exactly.
man, that means everything. I mean, just yeah, getting people who believe in you, spreading the word is huge.
Totally. So that's kind of how it happened for us. And I guess the president, our A&R guy, his name was Casual T, and he had brought, and the president, he had brought Naughty by Nature to the president of Hollywood Basic, and he passed on them.
Hmm.
And then he brought Cypress Hill to them, and he passed on them, and both of those groups went platinum.
Yeah.
So when he brought us, he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll sign this because you have that ear or whatever." And so we
Right.
thought we were going to be the next ones to go platinum. That's kind of what they were telling us, and
Yeah.
they promised us a part in that movie that Lauryn Hill was in, and Whoopi
Oh.
Goldberg.
Oh yeah. Sister Act.
Sister Act. Yeah, we were supposed to be in Sister Act Part 2 or something.
Classic, man.
Good memory they got.
My buddy was in that movie. He had a bit role. I think in Sister Act 2, though.
Yeah, yeah. Sister Act 2 is what we were supposed to be.
Okay, classic.
Yeah. And then we were supposed to have a song in this movie, South Central. But, it was like all these promises, and nothing really came of any of it. But they did take us to Europe, and, we toured with this rapper, High C, who had a hit at the time. And then it was us, High C, and the Digital Underground guys. So, yeah, just
Wow.
to be like, basically a teenager who had never had a passport or never went anywhere, and to be able to go to Europe to do shows, that just seemed impossible, like,
Right.
so
That's incredible. And how did the relationship with Hollywood Basic go? Like, first off, like, how did you guys had an attorney already looking over contracts for you? Like, how'd you line all that up, and how did the relationship turn out?
we had an attorney, but our manager kind of helped us through all that. We didn't know any of that stuff, but the relationship, our relationship with our A&R was good, but it was, so before we got signed, we were going into a studio that was $15 an hour, and we really liked what we were doing and who we were working with. We liked our engineer.
Yeah.
And then after we got signed, they're like, "We want to put you in the studio." It was $75 an hour, and we kind of were hesitant on that, because I mean, all the hip hop that we liked was kind of like real gritty and grimy, anyways. But
Yeah.
I mean, I do understand like the benefits of going into like a better studio. Even if you're using like an SB 1200 or whatever, it'll still like make it sound fatter and stuff. So,
Sure. Sure.
but what I noticed was, instead of going to these fancier studios, they would make us demo songs at our house, and then if they didn't like them, then they would ask for more songs before we could go in the studio, and
Yeah.
so our studio time was always like, it would be months and months, and we were just like, we want to record, we want to do this.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that was a frustration. And then we realized they kind of kept it from us, but the president of the label had cancer.
Oh.
His name was Funkenklein, and he was from New York, and he was a radio DJ with Chuck D before Chuck D started
Oh, right,
Public
right,
Enemy.
right. I knew that name from somewhere.
And he was a writer. He wrote for a lot of magazines, I think, like The
Yeah.
Source and stuff. And
Uh,
so this guy was really connected, and when he got cancer, basically everything kind of just went on pause, and eventually the label folded. But nobody told us any of this at the time, and we were just frustrated, like, what's going on? Like, what we want to record, and
Yeah.
so yeah, they eventually like dropped us from the label, and then the label folded, like,
Yeah.
a few months after or something. But when we signed, they have you sign a deal to end the relationship, and then they give you money.
Yeah.
So we saw like a lot of money that way,
And you got
but
to keep
then
your masters too, yeah?
and then we got our masters, and then Charisma was killed like shortly after.
Yeah. I know
And
that
yeah,
part of the story.
he was like 20. So
Ugh.
yeah.
I had two of my best childhood friends died in a car crash in high school.
Wow.
And that's just something that's so, like, I almost wonder, like, it probably would have been worse if I had been older, because you're just so not used to dealing with stuff. At least I wasn't used to dealing with stuff like that yet.
Yeah.
But how did you deal with that, man? You had your buddy and your working partner in this
Yeah.
group pass on so early. How did you
I
get
know.
through
We were
that?
supposed to go in the studio that day, and I remember getting a message from him saying, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to make it. I got to take care of some things." And he was shot in like broad daylight. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I remember getting the call from his mom, and she was hysterical. And
Hmm.
yeah,
It was just an
I was just
accident.
in shock. It was a carjacking kind of thing. So he was in East Palo Alto, which was like really dangerous neighborhood, and
Hmm.
he was driving, and he always had like not necessarily nice cars, but he would have like kind of old, kind of gangstery cars
Yeah.
that like had like nice rims and everything. And
Yeah.
um, he was at a stop sign, and this guy on foot like went up to his car and like had a gun and said, get out of the car, and he resisted, and the guy killed him. And he was with another guy too, and then I guess the other guy brought him to the hospital, but it was already too late.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was, like you said, I mean, being young and having that happen, it's, you just never would, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, and it just, I can't imagine it would be easy to even think about music after that for a while. I would
That's exactly what
suspect.
happened, yeah. I stopped. I didn't want to do music. I didn't want to do anything. I mean, I just needed to heal and just kind of just deal with it.
Yeah.
And it took months, but then eventually I realized like turning on my sampler and making beats and, making tracks, like that was what really kind of got me out of it. It was my therapy for more than anything.
Right. I think for so many of us, music is therapy. I know, one of the subjects I just like to touch on, because it's something not many people talk about, is just the overabundance of ups and downs and dealing with depression with artists, because it's just
Yeah.
it's obviously we all make music because we feel emotions pretty deeply, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just but creating music is our outlet, and our kind, you're right, it's our therapy to kind of get through and deal with these feelings,
Yeah.
man. Well, I'd love to talk to you just kind of about some of the early gigs you guys did. I was reading online that you and Charisma did a bunch of crazy shows, opening for like House of Pain and Nas and The Far Side.
Yeah.
And just going back to those happier times, what was it like getting to open for some of these people? And where were some of these shows? Do you have any particular awesome memories of back then,
One
doing opening slots?
Yeah, one of them was at the Longshoremen's Hall, I think it was called, but I remember it was like Black Sheep
Oh,
um, when their This or That song was like, like basically like you couldn't escape that song anywhere. And
yeah.
yeah, I just remember opening for them, and people they were really like into what we were doing.
Oh yeah,
And yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, because
Stylistically, though,
yeah,
your thing, and
stylistically it was like, yeah, it was a really good fit. So,
I bet.
but beyond that, yeah, the a lot of those shows, there was this thing called the Gavin Hip Hop Convention,
Ah,
or the Gavin, actually, I think it was just a college radio convention, but they had hip hop kind of presence at it. You know, they would have hip hop shows, but
hmm.
this guy David Paul, he would put together these bills. He had a magazine called The Bomb Hip Hop Magazine, which
Okay.
was, it was kind of, it was more newspaper format almost. You know, not many pictures. It was like more reading, but it was from the Bay Area, and so he would do Bomb Magazine presents shows basically, and that's, yeah, that's where a lot of those, that's where the Nas thing was, and um,
Oh yeah.
House of Pain, yeah. But yeah, doing the show with
Amazing,
House of
man.
Pain, I remember just like DJ Lethal. I think that was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was their DJ at the time. He liked the stuff I was doing, and he basically like, he was working on stuff, and he's like, man, I really like your beats. Just send me a cassette tape of just nothing but drums, and
Uh huh.
I'll give you $1,000. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like easy way to make $1,000. And
Yeah.
so I sent it to him, and I don't even remember if he used them or not, but you know, just, yeah, just
Ideas.
having like, yeah, having people like that were
Wow.
already like kind of, you know, doing good things, or it was right. It was cool to have.
That is, man. That is. Dang. Well, so what is there anything in particular that you remember that you learned that you still take with you about performing from Charisma in your days with Charisma? Did you guys, I'm sure this was like one of
Yeah,
your first forays where how
yeah.
did you
There's a
guys
lot of
hone your
things.
shows and what'd you learn from him?
Right. I mean, that was one thing, is I noticed that a lot of people, they would try to stay on stage as long as they could, and
Mm.
what we wanted to do was just give them like 15-20 minutes, because also people didn't know our songs yet, so we just wanted to give them maybe 5 songs and just have them wanting more, you know. And
Right.
but it would be like, you know, our stuff, I guess at that time, and hip hop in general was really hype, like with Fushnikins and, you know,
Yeah.
Busta Rhymes, or just like a lot of stuff where it was like a lot of energy, a lot of dancing,
Yeah.
and
MOP.
yeah, MOP. Well, MOP, I think, got
It's a little
popular
bit.
after
Yeah.
Charisma died,
Yeah.
but
True.
they, no, they might have had stuff in '92, but basically, yeah, I remember we would just, it would be like a lot of high energy songs, and then with a lot of jumping around, and then we had this break in our live show where we would just, because Charisma was all about drinking apple juice. He never drank alcohol.
That's right.
um, but we had this thing called the apple juice break. It was like a little intermission, and we would just sit down and
Right.
like just play the song and just like drink our apple juice, and people just like, just little stuff like that, just to be a little like weird and like, you know,
Yeah.
stand out from people. But
Yeah, man.
um, but yeah, Charisma live, like people really enjoyed it, and yeah, I remember like Mixmaster Mike and Qbert. They had like, it was even before they were the Scratch Pickles. They had a different. I think they were the Rocksteady DJs, but
Hmm.
they opened for us one time, and like their show was so great. I'm like, how are we gonna follow that up? But you know, Charisma always had the energy, and like, yeah, people really enjoyed what he was doing.
Oh man. We just, right as you were talking about Charisma, there's a hummingbird kind of hovering behind you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
cool.
I thought you were gonna say that there was one. Well, you're indoors though, but yeah, I've been. Yeah, the hummingbird's kind of distracting me, but it's, yeah. There's a lot of nature here where I live.
That's great, man. Well, so I
I'm
know
gonna
you,
turn this
like you
on
were saying, you. Oh
silent.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I
No,
was
I'm
just gonna
listening.
say, you said after Charisma was shot, you took some time away from music, and your drum machine and making beats kind of brought you back. And I read one of the first things you produced was a track for Cool Keith called "I Want to Be a Star."
Oh
Just
yeah.
wanted to
Uh-huh.
hear about how you first met up with Cool Keith, what it was like to work with him, how your collaboration happened.
Yeah, Cool Keith. I was a major ultramagnetic fan, like a lot
Yeah,
of people, a lot of my friends and I. Um, but yeah, Critical Beatdown, I mean, to this day is like up there. It was one of the
yeah,
most important hip hop records.
yeah,
You
man.
don't hear much about it. Like, it's not, I don't know, people don't talk about it like they would talk about Nas Illmatic or,
Yeah,
some of those others. But
I like Illmatic, but I like that record better.
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, Critical Beatdown was just a great one. But
Incredible.
this guy, Cutmaster Kurt, who I knew from the Bay Area, he was working with Keith, and I don't remember. I think I just approached him at a show and gave him a tape with my phone number on it, and he listened to it, and he called me, and he's like, "Yeah, I really like this track." Like, and I was living in San Jose at the time, and he's like, or no, I think San Francisco, but yeah, up in the Bay Area, and
Mm.
he said, "We'll fly you down to LA, and we'll jump in the studio and let's record it." And
Dang.
yeah, so I was like, well, let me hear it. Do some of the lyrics over the phone right now. I want to hear it. Like, you know. And he's like, don't worry about it. I got it under control. Like. And so he's like, oh, you're afraid. You don't want to come or something. And then I was like, no. And I came down, and we got in the studio. It was Kurt's house.
Okay.
And we get in there, and then he doesn't have anything written. And I'm like, oh, man. I knew it. But he
Uh-huh.
wrote it all out, and yeah, kind of just did it on the spot. And Kurt, I mean, Kurt was doing all of his music at the time, so
Mm.
for me to kind of go in there and infiltrate it, like some producers would have been like really salty about that, but Kurt was really gracious and like kind of just took me in, as
Wow.
like one of his own or whatever, because we're both from the Bay Area into hip hop, and he,
Yeah,
both DJ'd on college radio, and
that's
both just
great.
like really big Cool Keith fans. So, but yeah, then I remember Automator was also working with Keith at the time on Dr. Octagon.
Right.
Um, and Automator was mixing and mastering a lot of my stuff. So,
Okay.
but he was playing that stuff, and but yeah, the "Wanna Be a Star." I remember we went to so we recorded the song, and then we he didn't have a hotel for me. I just stayed at his he had me stay at his apartment and
Yeah.
slept on the couch or whatever, and then um, the next day, like, we went to Kinko's and we started working on the artwork because we didn't have any like graphic
Right.
production team or anything. It was just so I just remember Cool Keith. He had this magazine Blacktail, and he cut out a picture of this girl's big ass, basically, and he
Yeah.
called it Funky Ass Records was the name of his label.
Nice.
But it was him and Tim Dog and me and Cutmaster Kurt, and
Wow.
um, I remember like Keith. He cut it so crookedly, like he wasn't like really a perfectionist, and like Tim Dog and I are like, "What are you doing?" We were like, we got the scissors and like made it a much better cut,
Yeah.
much rounder ass because he had just had it all cook.
Uh-huh.
And then we
Oh,
went to
that's great.
Roscoe's and went to a club. I remember like when we went clubbing, like Keith had these business cards that said Keith Thornton and his phone number, and for occupation he said photographer because he didn't want anyone
Okay.
to think he was a rapper, which
Huh.
was weird to me because I feel like if you if you tell someone you're a rapper, they might be more interested in you than if you're a photographer. But
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, he would give everyone, yeah, I'm Keith, I'm a photographer. And in his apartment, he had like
That's
all these
crazy.
Polaroids of different people.
Okay.
So yeah,
All Polaroids he took, obviously.
all Polaroids he took.
Wow.
But yeah, he was really eccentric, and like, yeah, we went
I
grocery
love it.
shopping, and he was like, he wanted to buy some like clothing dye, but he didn't really say what it was for. And he's like, well, should I get the magenta or the opaque, I don't know, turquoise, or I'm like, I don't know what you're doing with this clothing dye, but I just remember I was like kind of soaking everything in that you know that he was
What an
doing.
amazing experience, man. He's like,
Yeah, it was because yeah,
true
Totally.
eccentric. I was just hanging. I got to go see Angelo Moore last night, and
Oh yeah.
another incredible, eccentric, amazing artist.
And you're working with him, right, from Fishbone, or?
I have in, excuse me, I have in the past, but I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
DJ. They asked me to come down and spin records in between sets last night.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But he was amazing.
Where
It
was
was
that?
like, it was this little place in Topanga we have called Corazon. That's just like a little, probably
Okay.
holds 70
Yeah.
people inside, but
Yeah.
it's great,
cool.
good vibe, and they played their butts off. It was like the trumpet players like.
But was
in
it
like
Fishbone or what was it?
No, it's Dr. Mad Vibe and the Missing Links. It's Angelo's group
Oh,
that
cool.
he has, where he plays like organ and theremin, and then he's got like two other horn players. He plays sax too, and then two other horn players, and full on band.
Yeah.
It's crazy, really cool. It's like Zappa, real like crazy changes. Like one song it was like 10 minutes long, and they were just flipping between styles like every 8 bars. It was nuts.
Nice.
Totally impressive.
But he's like an unsung hero as well. I mean, I
Totally.
remember Fishbone and Chili Peppers. I would always see them together in like '85,
Yep.
and it would be like some shows Fishbone would headline, some the Peppers would headline, but they were kind of neck
Yeah.
and neck as far
Yeah,
as
totally.
influence and what they were doing.
Absolutely, man. I saw a lot of those shows too. So fun. Well, so I know you obviously did quite a bit of production work and DJing post your career with Charisma. Talk to me about the idea to form a record label. The first time I think I met you, I came up with Breakestra to San Francisco, and there was like an apartment up some stairs off Divisadero,
wow.
maybe? Is that
Yeah.
where I have vague memories
very
of going
good,
up to
good
some
memory.
place.
Yeah, I was on Ellis in between Divisadero and Broderick, and it was right by
Right,
the Justice
right.
League. So I'd walk
Right.
to the Justice League. Justice League was kind of where all the cool hip hop shows were happening at that time.
Yeah. We played there, and it was us and Quasimodo and you and maybe
Exactly.
J-Rock and all kinds of people. There's
And I
posters
think-
out there of it somewhere.
I know, that's a cool poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breakestra. I mean, I don't remember how I first heard you guys stuff. I think. Oh, you know what? I was at a show and I saw you guys live, and I approached
Okay.
Miles, and yeah, we talked about doing a 45 because had started this 45 series with Stone's Throw,
Right.
and I remember I got a phone call from Questlove. He just loved the Get Your Soul Together, and I remember.
That's cool.
But I remember, yeah, like, but basically I took the song and I asked if I could like do a version where it just starts with the drums for the part 2, I think, and
Yeah.
yeah, that was good for the DJs.
Totally.
But yeah, that's how I met Questlove. Is he's like, well, I love that Breakestra record, and he
That's
hit
great.
me up and he's like, I'm gonna be in San Francisco, like let's go record shopping together, and yeah, it's been like, how long has it been? Probably 23 years since
Yeah.
Breakestra came out, right?
Something like that.
I mean, you guys were probably doing stuff before,
yeah. Before
probably
that,
like
for sure.
96, 97, right?
I think that's
Or
right.
maybe 98.
I'm terrible with dates, but I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That's
I mean,
wild.
you guys were really one of the first non-hip hop,
Yeah.
curveball left turns that Stone's Throw did as a label. I mean, definitely as far as a full album, even though
Yeah.
it was like it had hip hop sensibility because the music you guys were playing was stuff that was
Hip-hop
sampled by
breaks.
hip hop artists. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what most people love about Stone's Throw is just the left turns. It's like you just really seem to follow what floats your boat at the moment, and I love that. So talk to our listeners about just. It's really interesting to me how labels, how you stay afloat and balance out your musical tastes with trying to stay afloat financially and all that, because that's got to be a crazy
Yeah.
constant moving target. You're trying to release stuff that you're just feeling. Sometimes it takes off, sometimes it doesn't. How do you deal with that as a label head, Chris?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's, I guess I try not to overthink it. And there's, a lot of the artists that I sign are people who have never had anything out. Like this guy Silas, who I just signed, we
Mm.
just put out a single, but he had no presence on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Um, very, very low amount of followers on Instagram. It's really just, I just really liked the songs that I heard from him. And
Yeah.
I mean, that there's obviously all different cases. Like we just signed Kate Renata
Mm.
for an album, and he's already an established artist. But for the most part, um, I don't really have to worry too hard about something not doing well, I guess.
Mm.
I mean, really, it's that part is really up to the artist to a large extent, And when I speak to artists, and like Anderson Paak was one where right off the bat, people just. But even with him, like when I signed him, he was playing like venues that were like 50 to 100 people or something, and
Yeah.
we put out one thing of him singing live in the dungeon, a stone's throw. The dungeon is like what we call our warehouse,
Yep.
and it got millions of views on
Crazy.
YouTube, and then Dr. Dre just discovered him,
Yeah.
um, and the rest was history with Anderson. But Anderson is someone where I just saw that like he had the talent and the drive, and
Right.
he loves performing, And
Yeah.
some artists I sign, they're very creative, but they don't care if they do shows, and
Mm.
there's different limitations. I mean, the Lions, you guys, it was hard for you to do shows outside of LA because you were like, I don't want the Lions is 13 people. I'm not going to do a
Yeah.
3-person thing, and that was a noble thing of you, to do. And you guys did a lot of great stuff.
I don't
I'm
know how
thinking of,
noble it was. I appreciate that, but I think it was just, yeah, it's like to get that sound, you just had to have all those people. And it was like, there's no
but it's
point
a
in
group,
really,
yeah.
yeah, it's a group thing.
But
It sounds the way it does
yeah,
because of all those people,
exactly, exactly.
but it's hard to get.
But yeah, I mean, every situation is different, and I
Yeah.
think, I kind of have heart to heart talks with artists going into it, like what do you want out of this? What are your expectations? What are your goals? And
Yeah.
how do we achieve them?
Yeah. That's a great way to start things out. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Because
I
it
mean,
really
Myron and
does.
E were two. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I
Uh-huh.
was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say it
No,
really
no, no,
does
no.
have to be a balance of talent. Obviously, you can see their talent, but then the drive to take it somewhere too is equally as important.
And look, like as a label, like I'll put something out even if it's only gonna sell like 1,000, or stream whatever,
Yeah.
a few thousand. That's um we can still sustain as a label doing that, and then also doing stuff that does very well, and we put a lot of money behind things, but it's just, yeah, it's just what does the artist want, I guess.
Right. Right.
Like Sudan Archives, we signed her, and it's been kind of a slow build. Like right off the bat, like she had a lot of fans,
Yeah.
but with every year,
I was one of them,
she's
by the way. I like those records a lot. Those
cool.
EPs, they were beautiful.
Yeah, and she's just been like such a joy to work with. And she's always like had such a positive attitude, and she's going on tour with oh, I can't think of their name now, but they're that Australian group who's really big, and they're playing stadiums like
Oh,
Staples Center, and
wow.
um, so you just stick to your guns, and you just keep doing it, and eventually people like come around.
Right. Man. Well, I think, tell me your thoughts on just building your team. Obviously, the people who work with you and for you a lot of them have been there a long time, like Jeff Jank, and you guys have known each other a long time. Tell me about assembling your team and what it takes to run a label. Like what all the jobs are, what it takes, what are the things that need to happen. I think that's just an important thing for people to know. All of the aspects that go into running a label, making sure things are taken care of.
I mean, there is a lot of crossover in jobs, but we have a few. Well, so there's like 20 people at Stone's Throw,
Yeah.
and my GM Jason McGuire, he deals with all the day-to-day stuff. I mean, I'm able to just be that guy that finds artists and signs them, and works with them in the studio, and
Right.
more on the creative end, I guess. But we have project managers. We have, I think, maybe 4 or 5, and because our roster's really large now, and
Yeah.
so we just kind of divvy up artists to different project managers, and some of the artists have. Oh, these hummingbirds are flying around again. Some of the artists have managers and booking agents, and all that, and then some of them don't, and we pick up the slack, and we kind of act as management for those until they find the right team, I guess.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, Jeff, like he does the website. He's in charge of finding, like, I mean, if he's not doing album covers for artists, then he's outsourcing it. He has a whole team of people that he works with. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's kind of a case by case with artists, like who's involved with it. And
Sure.
we have a team. We have a small team in Europe, but a lot of that stuff is outsourced as well, as far as distribution. And we have a guy, Coda, who
Japan.
does Japan, and now he's doing like broader Asia for us. But
Hold on.
yep.
Got the spruce goose flying over right now.
Oh, I see it. Yep. It's a
Dang.
helicopter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's an important thing too, is distribution, and you've got all your project managers, you've got someone doing the day-to-day, you've got Jeff dealing with the art and so many other things. Talk about distribution and how that works out. Yeah, and you've got the studio there too, which I want to talk to you about as well.
We have the studio, and then downstairs we also have like what we call the dungeon, and that's like where we have all our we still sell physical vinyl, we still sell CDs, a lot more vinyl than CDs, and all of our merch, our t-shirts and skateboards and hats and whatever.
I just found my Ultimate Breaks and Beats Stone's Throw shirt.
Oh, really?
My wife was cleaning out the garage. I was like, yes, because I wore it to death. It's definitely worn, but I'll start rocking it again.
You should actually interview Breakbeat Lou, who created the Ultimate Break series. Yeah,
I'd love to, man.
Yeah, he did all the edits on it. So
right. I chatted with him for a minute because he did Funky Soul, I don't know, a while back. And,
cool.
And he was real cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's got stories. He's been DJing since, I think, 73 maybe. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
Oh, I'd love to, man. Put me in touch, please.
The Bronx. Yeah.
So distribution. We were talking about distribution. So how does that, obviously you've been dealing with these people for a while, but how did you first line up distribution? How does that work? How does a label go about finding the right distributor?
The distribution, well, I mean, that's really like probably more of a question for Jason, because he handles all that stuff. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a digital marketing person, and we dealing directly with Spotify and Apple, and just all the streaming stuff is like, I would say, well, I don't know exact percentages, but that's a big part of it. And the vinyl distribution, so David, he's been with the company for over 10 years. He works in the warehouse, and he wholesales
Love
to
David.
a lot
He's
of
cool.
Yeah, David's awesome. So he does he does our wholesale distribution, and then Nick does our store orders, you know, because we sell a lot through stonesthrow.com as well, through our own website.
Right.
A lot of people constantly buy from us. So.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, from that, I mean, yeah, I remember when Questlove first came, he was like working on some Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil thing, and he's like, I need a studio last minute, like, can I come in? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I brought him in, and then I was like, let me give you a tour of the whole Stones Throw. And he's like, you guys are like a real record label. I didn't know that. Like, this is crazy. I got to interview you for my podcast. I'm like, let's do it.
Oh, man.
But it's, yeah, I mean, you know.
It is from the dungeon with live shows, and then to the studio where I've gotten to be in, and like it's a lot of stuff happening over there. And then obviously Goldline Bar too. It's like
the bar,
yeah.
But
Talk
I mean,
to me about building out the label from just a label to, first of all, let's just break down and talk about the studio and the sense of community that it brings to the label. I feel like
the studio is, it's been like such a major addition, and that's something we've always wanted, but I didn't really know how to build a studio. I mean, even like the early Stones Throw stuff, even like Quasimodo, for example, we did that. Madlib had a digital board, and he brought it over my house, and my stuff too, I was just using ADATs and just kind of EQing, and I didn't know the first thing about compression, and like the only compression was really in mastering, probably.
Right.
Or just from like the natural tape, you know. I mean, for the stuff we did do on tape, but you know, like the early days, we would go to a studio, like Cutmaster Kurt I mentioned earlier, like he did some of the Quasimodo, but then he was like, I'll only do this if you don't put my name on it, because it was recorded on cassette and like a hiss, and like if my name's on it, people aren't going to hire me anymore because it sounds too lo-fi, or you know. But I always liked that lo-fi aesthetic, and I, you know, even like the stuff on Fondle 'em, it always sounded dirty and raw. And I think that was like something that was missing in hip hop in the late 90s. I think, you know, it had gotten like a little jiggy and a little like clean. But but yeah, having a studio, I mean, I found a guy, Jake, who is just really knows his stuff, and he really built that studio from scratch. I mean, it was just an empty room, and you know, he like did the double doors, and just
it's incredible, man. We did a lot of the writing for the second Lions record there, and it was
oh wow,
because of you. Thank you for giving us the space there, man. But yeah, Shakespeare, Alex, Destin, and Malik and I were in there writing songs to those rhythms at least 4 or 5 times. That's where we wrote almost everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is like really helped the label, and it's only been in like probably 3 or 4 years that we've had an internal studio.
Yeah.
But we did have some pushback from some people on staff, like, no one's going to get work done because it's going to be too loud, and it's totally fine, you know. I think sometimes people are afraid to change, but it's it's been great.
Dang, man. Well, and then tell me about the idea behind starting the Goldline Bar. I want to hear about that and what that's been like for you.
Yeah, the bar's been a lot of fun. You've DJ'd it, yeah?
I was going to right before COVID.
You're going to, you haven't
and
yet.
Then
That's
COVID
right.
hit, so
okay,
I will soon,
we still
hopefully.
need to get you in there. Yeah.
I'd love it, man.
Let us know when you can. But
right on.
I mean, I basically, I think it was 2011, I DJ'd, well, to go back further, 2007, I DJ'd 7 nights in a row, and I called it 777. It was like
I remember that.
It was, so it was July 7th, I guess, or 7 days in a row, all 7 inches, and then 888, I think 999, we did 9 different area codes, all music videos, and then 10 we did a 10-hour show, and then 11 I was like, okay, we're gonna do I don't want to DJ at all this time. I'm just gonna have it be all my records, and we'll have 11 different DJs.
Oh yeah.
And then so we found a spot, and we got a U-Haul, and we it was gonna be 1,100 records, and it ended up being more than that, but I just sat back and watched the party while everybody else was DJing with my records, and I thought it was so fun.
That is.
And so I wanted to do that in Stones Throw. We had one of our buildings, or it's all in one building, but one of the rooms wasn't really being used. We were using it only for like music video shoots and private parties, but it was like, you know, like pretty much unused for most of the time. And I'm like, what if we made this a bar? And I had seen in Japan that they have vinyl bars as well.
Yeah.
But the Japanese vinyl bars, it's usually like maybe, well, I don't know, maybe like 200 or 300 records or 500 records, and they all belong to the owner of the bar, and then the owner is there all the time spinning the records and
Yeah.
serving the drinks.
Dang.
But I was like, for mine, I want to just have it be DJ 7 nights a week, and they're all spinning for my records. So
Yeah.
there's 10,000 records in there, and they're getting thrashed, man. I'm starting to like rethink that idea now, because I was like, no, they'll be fine, But
Did
it's
he
like
just put his triplicates out there in the collection?
that's what I'm noticing. Like there's a 3 feet high and rising in there that's just totally demolished now, and I'm like, I'm gonna go online and get like a reissue of it instead. And
Yeah.
the cheapest one I can find is $100. I'm like, this is just not a sustainable business model. Like, but it's a lot of fun, and yeah.
Super fun, man. I see everybody posting from there. I've seen Holloway and J Rock and everybody down there, and it's like,
Yeah, we met a lot of
just
people.
the funnest vibe, man.
Yeah, no, it's been great. So
That's really cool, man. Well, so what do you feel like, as you've been doing this for a long time, running this label? What are the biggest challenges you've had running Stones Throw?
maybe things getting monotonous, like, but it's not. I mean, I still like when I sign new artists, like I feel like I'm kind of living through them. I'm like, when I see them excited about stuff, it excites me, and the music at the end of the day, still like I'm still like really proud and thankful of like all the great music that I'm able to surround myself with.
Yeah.
So I would say like, like just being able to DJ, like I'm going to New York tomorrow, and that kind of stuff breaks it up, so that it's not just like doing the same thing every day, I guess.
Right.
And having the bar like has been like a new kind of hobby that pays bills as well, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still like I guess, yeah. It's been a little hard. I just recently, my wife had our first baby. It's my first time being a father, and that's been a challenge, just in terms of like wanting to be home with the baby a lot, and having to go into work and having like just different things to kind of just be involved in.
I was just talking to a couple of my buddies who play with Noel and Fitz and the Tantrums, and almost that entire band all has like young children that they're starting to tour again.
Yeah.
So that topic is another one where it's like artists who are doing stuff and traveling or running a label that have kids, man. It's such a crazy balance, trying to make it all happen and happy.
Yeah.
Man.
So it's still early days for that, but yeah, it's a new.
Congratulations to you guys, though, man. A new baby is a wonderful thing.
And she's a dancer. She just turned 9 months, but yeah, she just. I'll hold her up and we'll play a song, and she's just like going at it the whole time, and then I like a few songs into it, like it gets kind of tiring, or I might not have time to do it anymore, and then like we stop and then we put her on the ground, and she just starts crying and crying. She just wants to keep dancing.
Yeah.
So
You always see videos of that, of like kids reacting to music, and it's just so
Yeah,
selfless and beautiful. They're just like, I
yeah,
love this, you know, this is
yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I had no idea. I mean, I saw the one of like the kid, like, they play Biggie Smalls and he's really into it, and then they stop it and he cries. And
Exactly. I've seen that one.
yeah,
Put that back on.
yeah.
Oh my God.
That's how she
Well,
is about dancing.
I wanted to touch on with you, just because I've seen you do your amazing video sets. I saw you do it at Dub Club one time and one other time. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
wondering, what was your inspiration to undertake putting that kind of experience together, and what have been some memorable gigs, and what do you
Mm-hmm.
love about DJing videos? Because it's just an amazing thing to watch.
I think, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, I first started DJing in clubs in the early '90s, so it had been just probably 20 years of that already, and I went from vinyl to Serato and 45s, and just, yeah, just trying to do different things to keep it interesting. And the video
Yeah.
for me, I noticed I was like, I would be like doing these shows with like MF Doom and J Dilla and
Yeah.
Madlib, and they're all rhyming, and I'm up there on a stage and everyone's just staring at me. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a dance party, so I'm like, well, I got to give them something to look at, I guess.
Right.
And that's kind of where that started from.
Smart.
But in those days, it was like there was no Serato video yet, and like you had to get two DVD players that had pitch control, and it was like
Mm.
$10,000 in equipment alone.
Dang.
And then most uh, most venues didn't really like have the stuff. Like you had to bring everything with you, and it was really like it was challenging, but it was also like kind of new at that time, and so it was giving people something they hadn't really seen.
Yeah.
And I still do. I do enjoy doing it, but I do it more if I'm on the bill with performers, I guess. And I
Sure.
still,
Sure.
because what I notice is like when I do that, people are just kind of staring at the screen, and there's not really, it's not like a party vibe as much. And I really enjoy
Uh,
people dancing and smiling more and stuff. So yeah, I've kind of taken a break on the videos. I think I'm going back to vinyl and stuff, like kind of full
mm.
circle. So the show in
Keep
New
it
York
keep
that,
it interesting, man.
yeah,
Just like the
the
business, just like
yeah.
running the label. You got to keep it interesting.
Well, I'm noticing now, like I'm noticing that there are like a lot of younger people who do have an interest in the music that I want to share.
Right.
So as long as there's yeah, as long as there's still people coming out and having fun, then that's what it's all about.
That's true. Well, I wanted to talk to you. We were touching on social media early. Sorry, we were talking about streaming services earlier, and there's a great argument with all these streaming services for artists, and I wanted to get your take on that. All the streaming services are pretty notoriously a little frugal with their splitting profits with artists, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that business model, where you think it's going, what you think the ups of it are, what you think the downs of it are. What do
Hmm.
you what do you think of Spotify and Rhapsody and Apple Music and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I support it all. I think it's just it's a great way for people to hear music, and I use Spotify and like a lot of the streaming stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, of course, as a label, you're gonna always want them to pay more, but
Yeah.
I think it's definitely keeping us afloat more than if it was just the streaming services that don't pay you anything.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is a lot of times is getting your stuff playlisted and getting it heard.
Right.
Whereas before it might be like trying to get your stuff played on the radio.
Right.
Um, Now, like the streaming service playlist curator people for the official ones, those are
Yeah.
like the key holders, and
Right.
it's like yeah, I don't know, but it is like I think it's a pretty like more level playing field. I think than it was in the 80s and 90s. I guess. I mean, there's not as much payola and stuff like that.
Right.
It is more about the talent, I think.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the argument, is with such a low rate for all the streams that it's like, how are artists supposed to ever make money? I mean, even with like a million streams, I've seen people like,
Yeah.
like even I remember seeing Dylan and like Robbie Robertson, who are just like these huge songwriters whose songs get played all the time. But with streaming,
Mm-hmm.
they're just like making, 0.000016 or whatever
Right.
it is of a penny per stream, and it's
Yeah.
like you get a million plays and you see maybe $1,000. I forget what the math is, but it's not amazing,
I
so
think
it's
it's
like,
around
how
eight
do you,
thousand for a million.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I
So how do
know. But
you,
you're seeing these things that are like that get billions of streams. It's crazy. Like,
yeah,
and even on you, but I mean, YouTube, doesn't pay early. I mean, they
true,
pay so much lower than like a Spotify. But
they're all terrible in that respect. In that respect, they are. But I mean, the promotion thing is absolutely true. The playlisting thing is huge for artists, but I guess I'm just yeah, the percentage, the amount that they're making music worth seems to be kind of sad to me.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, we as a label we split our profits 50-50 with our artists, and
right,
we're very transparent with our accounting, and
absolutely.
I think, yeah, I mean, I, f- I feel like as a label we're doing better now because we have the streaming income and the vinyl, and,
Yeah,
the other income streams.
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, it's I'm just really trying to wrap my head around it because I think there's positives and there's negatives about it. So I'm just, you see it firsthand. I'm just interested in your input in it.
I mean, I think streaming kind of helped save our label in certain ways
How so?
because our stuff. So there's certain artists where you buy their record and you hear it a few times and that's it, right? But
Yeah.
but with streaming artists, you're getting paid every time it's played by
Mm-hmm.
somebody. So someone like a Mad Villain has like millions of streams
Yeah.
because people they play it over and over again.
Right.
It's not necessarily like 100 million people. It's like,
The same person playing it a bunch of
yeah,
times.
yeah, like 10 million people playing it 10 times. Or
So you do think it evens out, Chris? Like, if somebody buys the Mad Villain record for whatever it is, $14.99 or $20, I don't know what it is, but versus streaming it a bunch and a bunch of times, you think it's like it
I've
equals
heard
out to
people
about
say
the
it
same?
does. I don't really
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for that. What do you think? I wanted to talk about just music and relationships sometimes. Just being discouraging, trusting collaborators that might not make good on, a handshake deal. And kind of can get people down sometimes. How do you yourself keep focused and positive and moving forward? And have you run into any of that? People kind of not living up to their word in music.
Mm, I don't know. I guess like early on for me, it was like, I would give a song for a compilation and I'd get a check for $1,000 and the check wouldn't clear, and then I would try to contact the person over and over again. They'd never, return my calls and stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I tell people like early on, like, it, if you're trying to build a name for yourself, maybe go into things like not strictly about the money as much, but don't give away too much stuff for free. So,
Yeah.
maybe like give a song here, give a song there until you kind of get your. But I mean, I guess there is that risk that something could really take off. I always wonder about that "Wake Me Up" song with Aloe Black and
Oh yeah.
and the electronic artist who passed away.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't think
Right.
any of them really thought it was gonna be as big as it was, and like how did the money pan out? Did everybody feel okay about it after? Were they still friends after?
Right.
So
Yeah, because that did really well. That song. That was crazy. But if I remember, I saw, going back to our Spotify thing, I remember Aloe posting about it, like saying, this is streamed so many millions of times, and I just got a check, and it was like for $1,500 or something like that.
right.
I could have the numbers wrong, but I remember something in my head
But
going,
what
like,
was
dang.
his deal? Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know what his deal was, so I could be,
yeah,
But I
yeah.
just remember thinking, like, right off the bat, I don't know the exact splits of the song and how they worked all that out, but I just
Yeah,
remember
who
thinking,
did
like,
what?
dang, even with this big hit song, like, how are they
Avicii.
only making that much money,
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I wonder how much Avicii made and how much Aloe made. He might have just, who
Right.
knows? I don't know.
Who knows? We'll cut that out, man.
But it was.
I'm not trying to not trying to sludge up any mud. I'm just
No,
thought of
it's.
that. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's end. I'll cut out some of that stuff because I feel like it took a kind of a turn there. But let's
Yeah,
end
it's
on
fine.
let's end up on a just kind of a fun note here. I'd love to just talk about just with production and well, actually, let's do this. Let's talk about, as a label owner and producer, who are the top 5 producers or label owners that you look up to the most?
Mm.
You have guys that you look up to, you're like, I want to do it like that. I want to be that guy when I'm that age.
I liked that Blue Note. They've been around since 1939, I believe, and
Yeah.
they never really had a. What I read or heard was that their first gold record was Norah Jones in the 2000s. And they
Wow.
put out all this great music for so many years, and it was just art. The packaging
Yeah.
was artful, and the music was phenomenal. And then I think the John Coltrane record from 1959, it might have been Blue Train
Hmm.
or one of them, went
Oh yeah.
gold second after Norah Jones.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's like I would love to see Stone's Throw still around, as long as Blue Note.
Yeah. So
That
I
was
guess that's
good.
the reason why a lot of those Blue Notes in good shape go for so much money, because they weren't huge sellers, and obviously people didn't always treat their records great, but those original
Yeah,
Blue Note pressings are worth a lot of money.
yeah.
Man.
I don't really. I mean, producers. It was just like, yeah, there were a lot of hip hop producers that I looked up to. A couple that I mentioned earlier were 45 King and Molly Mall, but
Yeah.
obviously Pete Rock and Premier and Trevor Horn before that. Trevor
Oh
Horn
yeah.
did Art of Noise and Malcolm McLaren and a lot of stuff.
Right.
Um,
Wasn't he the one who did that later Yes single too, Owner of a Lonely
he
Heart?
did
Did he
Owner of
work
a
on that
Lonely
too?
Heart, and that had like the Funk Incorporated coolest back sample in it. It was like the
Right.
drums were like and the stab.
So crazy.
Um,
Yeah, that
yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, he was groundbreaking, Trevor Horn. He did some amazing stuff.
But the song Beatbox by Art of Noise was like that was like a classic, and it
Yeah.
kind of changed music when it came out. It was like just all the breakdance, like yeah, pop lock breakdance music was kind of came out after that song.
Right. What
Um,
are who are the artists you're excited about right now? Do you have I know you were mentioning people you just signed. Are there
yeah, Silas was one of
specific
them that I mentioned,
Yeah.
and Sudan's still doing their thing. I mean, there's a lot. There's this group Teeth Agency that I signed. I mean,
What
I'm
is it called?
starting to just Teeth Agency.
Teeth Agency. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe their music. It's
They have something out already, or you just signed them?
yeah, we've put out some stuff with them.
Oh, I gotta check it
There's
out. I
This
don't know
this duo, the Steeples, that we put out recently. Have a
Great
new
name.
record by them coming out.
that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with, like, yeah, all the stuff that's going on.
Man, so much good music out there, Chris.
Yeah. And I
Well,
think more so
thanks.
than ever, yeah. And I'm kind of known for like older music a lot of times, but like this bar, the Blind Barber, asked me to do a playlist, a Spotify playlist for them, and I just made it a point to just put only new music in it, and
Oh yeah.
maybe only like a couple Stones Throw things, and everything else was from other labels. So
Wow.
there's definitely like a lot of new music that I like, but it's, yeah, when I get asked in this situation, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, we'll check for that.
When I
It's out.
started, yeah.
It's out
Oh.
already. This playlist you did?
Oh yeah, they just did it. For Father's Day, they asked me to do a playlist for them.
Oh, okay.
But
Maybe can you send me a link to it, and I'll put it in the. We'll tag it in the when the podcast
Yeah.
comes out.
sounds good.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
Chris, Peanut Butter Wolf, thanks so much for being on the Conduit, man. So appreciate your time and all your
Yeah.
great stories and expertise and
Yeah,
your
man.
friendship
Well-
above all, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for for all the music you've contributed for Stones Throw, and just, yeah, for being yourself. And I want to definitely get you in the bar soon. So let me know when you
Yeah,
want to
man.
DJ.
I will, man. I'll reach out for sure.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
take care, man.
Chris.
Have a good one.
You too. Thanks, man.
All right, peace.
Later. All right. Hope you enjoyed this episode of The Conduit. The Conduit is brought to you by Crewest Studio and DanUbeProductions.com. Many thanks to the folks at Squadcast, Polymash, Captivate, We Edit Podcasts, Universal Audio, Audio Technica, Shure, and Avid. I'd like to dedicate this episode to the memories of Charles Edward Hicks Jr., aka Charisma, David Funkin' Klein, MC Miles, MF Doom, J Dilla, and the diabolical Bismarcky. Extra special thanks to my brothers from other mothers, Scott Power, Bill Coulter, and Alex Desir. And last but not least, go check out Soul Picnic, my hand-picked music playlists on notrealart.com. Until next time, this is Dan Ubik, signing off.